Hey there, Eagles fans. Tom Downey here, subbing in for Thomas Mott. Two great first names right there. The Carson Wentz trade rumors are abuzz everywhere right now. The Bears and Colts, other teams. Could he get a first? Could he get more than just a first-round pick back? So on today's video, I am here to break down everything we know about Carson Wentz, the latest buzz, the interest, and some potential trade destinations as well. It appears that the Eagles are very close to moving on from the quarterback they once viewed as their franchise savior. Multiple reports saying the Eagles are close to moving on from Wentz and are apparently seeking a Matthew Stafford-esque trade package in return. I don't know if they can actually get quite that much, but it does appear that Wentz's time is done in Philadelphia, which is a little bit interesting given that they hired Nick Sirianni and it seemed like he was going to be the guy to fix Carson Wentz. Now back to the apparent asking price for Carson Wentz. Remember, the Lions got 2 first-round picks, a third, and Jared Goff from the LA Rams as part of the trade for Matthew Stafford, with at least conflicting information on how the Lions view Jared Goff and what else they could have gotten. Getting back this package, or even close to it, would be a tremendous haul for Philadelphia, given what we just saw out of Carson Wentz in 2020, where there's no way around it. He was broken. He was a bad NFL quarterback and, frankly, looked like the worst starting quarterback in the NFL. And it's wild how far Wentz has fallen, given where he was in 2017 when he was in the midst of an MVP campaign before his injury. 33 touchdowns in just 13 games, was at least going to approach the 4,000-yard mark. Wentz looked like a franchise quarterback that year, but he hasn't reached that height since then. And now Philadelphia is in an awkward position where the quarterback wants out. The relationship was not going very well, even with the hiring of Nick Sirianni. It looks like it wasn't going to work in the end for Wentz and those sides. And now they're going to move on. We'll see if they start with Jalen Hurts, if they go get somebody else or whatever. But Philadelphia, it looks like Wentz is not going to be there any longer. Imagine telling somebody that right after Wentz signed his extension. They probably wouldn't have believed you. So before we dive into some teams linked, get your votes in. Who will trade for Carson Wentz? That question, it's the pinned comment on today's video. So if you get the ad break here, scroll on down and let me know. Now, there have been multiple teams linked, some more so than others, to Carson Wentz. As it sits right now, it looks to me like there are 2 main contenders. So let's begin with perhaps the most likely one. The Chicago Bears, one of the favorites right now for Carson Wentz. GM Ryan Pace, and to a slightly lesser extent, head coach Matt Nagy, they are desperate for a new quarterback. If they don't win in 2021, that regime, that GM, they're gone. They're getting fired. So it makes sense that they would try to desperately acquire a new quarterback, to bring in somebody who is better, or at least could be better, than Mitch Trubisky. Now, where things get interesting as it relates to Chicago is there are a couple different reports, some of them conflicting, in terms of what the Bears are offering. So NBC Philadelphia mentioned this potential trade package. Carson Wentz, a first-round pick, Nick Foles, and running back Tariq Cohen. That's a lot. And I think the Foles is the interesting piece here. Because Nick Foles, he and Carson Wentz, you can't put those two on the same team. We tried that. It was going to have some issues. I don't know if Wentz mentally could handle it. So it makes sense that Foles would go on his way out. The Tariq Cohen portion of this is also intriguing since the Bears did just pay him. Now, Tariq Cohen took to Twitter, and I will make note that, of course, the ownership and head coach Jim would tell Tariq Cohen, no, you're not getting traded up until he does. Here's what he said, though. Let me clear this up real quick. Just got off the phone with my head coach and GM. Bears fans were locked in. Don't worry. People say anything nowadays. So that was one of the trade packages. I do think including Foles makes sense. Even if maybe Philadelphia flips him later, he can't stick around with Wentz. That's going to be a non-starter, I think, for Carson in particular. Now, Brandon Robinson of SB Nation said this is the apparent trade package. Carson Wentz, of course, goes to Chicago. The first-round pick for Philadelphia, they're number 20 overall this year, a future third, and once again, Nick Foles is the package. Now, that would not quite be a Matthew Stafford haul, but if you get a first, a third, and I guess you throw in Nick Foles as well, that's not that bad for Philadelphia. That's actually some pretty good return in terms of what I thought Wentz could go for at the beginning of this offseason. I genuinely don't know if Wentz is worth a first-rounder. If you promise me 2017 production, then heck yeah, sign me up. I just worry we're never going to see the same old Carson Wentz. So is he worth a first rounder? Get your votes in for me. 1 for yes or 0 for no. Let's talk about the other widely assumed contender here, the Indianapolis Colts. And they make sense, right? Frank Reich is their head coach. They've been connected for Carson Wentz for a significant amount of time. Chris Ballard, by the way, when asked about Carson Wentz, didn't deny interest in a trade, saying they were exploring a lot of options, just saying there was no trade going down on Saturday. Now, Ballard will not overpay in terms of picks because he loves them. Greg Bedard, by the way, had an interesting tweet, and I'm going to read between the lines of this one, right? Eagles asking for 2 firsts for Carson Wentz, which has led to some dial tones, including from one team previously perceived to be a preferred, or a favorite, landing spot. I don't know about you guys. I think that is unquestionably Indianapolis. I don't think Ballard's going to move 2 first-round picks to acquire Wentz. They do need a quarterback, though. And if there isn't a bidding war between the Bears and Colts, if the Bears get wind that no one else is as interested at their current offer, maybe the offer changes. Maybe that gets the Colts back in it or something along those lines. The connection between Wentz and the head coach, and even Press Taylor set to join there as the quarterback's coach, that all makes a lot of sense. But the asking price is a big deal, and I don't know if Ballard's going to be willing to meet it. Now, I'll give you guys some advice here. Do not forget about Valentine's Day. It is literally just around the corner, and you do not want to end up in the doghouse because you forgot to take care of your special someone on that day. So let me help you. Head over to chatsports.com/flowers. That link saves you 15% off all their flowers and all their gift packages as well, because flowers these days, it's kind of like the minimum. If you're not doing something in addition to flowers, you're coming up short in the end. So head over to chatsports.com/flowers. I will make sure that link is in the comments and in the description, and go shop around for something nice this Valentine's Day. Now to some other teams who I don't think are as in the mix, but I did want to make note. The Las Vegas Raiders were linked to Wentz by Eagles reporters, so take it with a grain of where that information or guess could be coming from. They are reportedly open to moving Derek Carr. What I don't get this for the Raiders' viewpoint is Carson Wentz actually better than Derek Carr? Like, if you promised 2017 Wentz, of course, sure, but 2020 Derek Carr, guys, was pretty good. He had a pretty solid season, 67%, over 4,000 yards. Yeah, you want more touchdowns and fewer fumbles, and although I don't think Derek Carr's a top 10 quarterback, he outplayed Carson Wentz. He's only older by a year and a half, and he's still pretty cheap. So if I'm the Raiders, yeah, they might be willing to move on from Derek Carr. I don't think the answer to the getting better at quarterback spot, though, is Carson Wentz. I don't think that's a great path for the organization. Speaking of Wentz, I want you guys to rank Wentz for me among NFL quarterbacks. Where does he rank? Is he 10? Is he 15, 20? Is he even lower? Let me know what you guys think in the comments section. The Carolina Panthers next up here, mostly because of their reported offer for Matthew Stafford. Now, look, they're clearly trying to upgrade over Teddy Bridgewater, which, as a Teddy Bridgewater fan, I completely understand. I wonder if the asking price is currently too high for them, but they were prepared to give it all up for Matthew Stafford. The ESPN report of what they offered, a 2021 first-round pick, which is number 8 overall, by the way, and Teddy Bridgewater, and a 5th. If I'm being honest, I am very much uncertain why the Lions just didn't accept that deal. That's not the route I would have gone if I were them. That's pretty weird. But regardless, Carolina, they're trying to make moves at quarterback. Is Wentz the option there? I think if you believe their new decision-maker, Scott Fitterer, they're going to be involved in all trades. Or they're at least going to call. I don't know if they're going to be actively involved with the way this trade appears to be trending towards in terms of the value for Carson Wentz. Now, if you guys want videos all NFL offseason long, hit that big red button and subscribe. That way you don't miss out on any of the videos that we put together, NFL mock drafts, and what could be the most crazy quarterback carousel in NFL history all this offseason. So don't miss out. Hit that big red button and subscribe. The Denver Broncos next up here. Again, another team that was reportedly involved in the Matthew Stafford trade talks. I am unconvinced if Drew Lock is the franchise quarterback. I also don't think Denver's going to move their first rounder for Carson Wentz. So at that point, I'm not sure they're the most logical destination for Wentz. Some other quarterback-needy teams I did want to make note of, the San Francisco 49ers. Kyle Shanahan values not turning the ball over. That does not really fit with Carson Wentz, plus money's a factor there. Much like the Saints, who I kind of think Sean Payton wants to give Taysom Hill a full-time crack at that job, which is weird. And then Washington, who they need a quarterback. I don't know if an in-division trade is going to be the route that Washington and Philadelphia end up going in as it relates to Carson Wentz. One last team here, the New England Patriots. It's very clear. Cam Newton, Jarrett Stidham aren't the answer. And I do want to make note that Josh McDaniels interviewed and had interest for that Eagles job and apparently was almost set to get it, by the way, before that kind of fell apart late. So I wonder, does that mean McDaniels likes Carson Wentz and thinks that they can save him? If so, knowing that McDaniels at some point will take over as the Patriots head coach, in theory, of course, unless maybe it is Hoodie Jr. who gets to be the guy, maybe there's some interest there. There was a report, though, from Jeff Howe, a key Patriots beat writer, who says they're not serious suitors, so that's why they're at the bottom of this list. In the end, we'll see what happens with Carson Wentz. If Philadelphia can get a first or a first plus in a trade, that is some significant return for a player who was absolutely terrible this year. But it would appear that after the Matthew Stafford trade, Carson Wentz is the next one up to fall as it relates to what could be a chaotic quarterback offseason in terms of trades and free agency and, of course, the NFL draft.